Everyone, I'm back. The modern mystic is back. And what has the modern mystic been doing? He's been dying over and over again, dying and being reborn. And he's been discovering a lot of things as a result of that. And he wants to share a lot of that. And he's going to stop speaking in the third person now. So the topic of today's video is why everything in your life is turning out for the best. Why everything in your life is turning out for the best. Why everything, every moment, especially this moment right here and now, is for the best. The main idea of this channel has always been that you have to be your own mystic. You have to solve your own riddle. You have to escape your own labyrinth. You create the riddle that you solve. You construct the labyrinth that you escape. You are the Minotaur and you are Theseus. And you're Ariadne, the string of Ariadne, the spider string. That's your intuition. And intuition is only ever one thing, and it only ever leads you one place, and that's to your fear. And I think that in my experiences these last couple months, these last 6 months, and there'll be a lot of videos coming out soon enough about my experiences and the things that I've learned, I constantly was dying and being reborn over and over again. Especially in the last 2 months, I felt as if I was a man in a storm. And I'd let go of living on boats. I dove into the water long ago. I'd sailed on the high seas. I left flat earth many, many years ago. But I'd stuck to these boats and I'd stuck to the anchors. I listened to the captains of these ships. And eventually I got sick of it and I said, I'm diving into the water. And I dove into the water and guess what? I drowned. But then God, He breathed new life into me. But then I drowned again. And over again, I'm drowning and then I'm coming back out. I'm drowning, coming back out. And sometimes I'm flying out over the water. I devised for myself my own wings so I could fly over the ocean. But eventually the storm always caught me. I could never escape myself because the storm is you. You are the storm and you are the calm. And in those subsequent deaths and rebirths though, even though in the tumultuous chaos of the moment, you can't see, your vision is blurry. It's like you're climbing the mountain and the fog is settled in. And you don't know where you're going. And all you're doing is you're walking forward. And even then, you don't know if you're walking forward at all. Maybe you're going backwards. Maybe you ended up going the wrong way. But this is the thing. There is no wrong way. There's only your way. Dostoevsky says, it is better to go wrong in one's own way than to go right in another's. And when you dive off the boat, when you say, I'm no longer following that captain, I'm no longer following whoever it is in that village that leads me and that commands me, I'm gonna listen to the voice inside. Well, then you're gonna enter into that storm. And the life of the storm, even though it is tumultuous and chaotic, there's a lot of positives. And one of the biggest positives is that your life is long. Your life is very long. And it's not long in the sense that you live longer. It's longer because every experience is drawn out. The days feel like months, years, decades. Because so much is going on in here. You're going every which way. You're flying up and down. You're in the storm. You're drowning, and then you're coming back to life. And then the biggest struggle you often have is, well, how can I explain this to other people? How can I put into words this inner infinity that I've been going through? And then you become an artist, and you say, I'm going to put it into words. I'm going to put it, and then your life task. You see the connections, you see the dots, you see the unity that's beginning to emerge within you. And that's what all art is. All art is the expression of an inner unity achieved. But you know how you achieve an inner unity? It's at the consequence of an inner fragmentation. So the quote that's going to be the topic of this video is personal providence from Nietzsche. And this is, I was rereading, I have this one collection of his work and that has Human Ulti Human, I think the Antichrist, and then also Ecce Homo. And the preface, it's I forget his name, I thought I was gonna remember it, but it's him, the guy that did a lot of his translations, it's him going through and saying, confronting the claims that Nietzsche's lost his mind in Ecce Homo in the last book he wrote, because he says things like, why I am a destiny, why I am so clever, why I am never wrong, why I am a dynamite, That's the thing though, it's just that it's the self, you need it, you should believe in yourself. But personal providence, and Walter Kaufman, that's his name, he writes this out and he says, there's a certain high point in life. Once we have reached that, we are, for all our freedom, once more in the greatest danger of spiritual unfreedom. And no matter how much we have faced up to the beautiful chaos of existence and denied it all providential reasons and goodness, we still have to pass our hardest test. For it is only now that the idea of a personal providence confronts us with the most penetrating force, and the best advocates, the evidence of our eyes speaks for it. Now that we can see palpably, always everything that happens to us turns out for the best. Every day and every hour, life seems to have no other wish than to prove this proposition again and again and again. Whatever it is, bad weather or good, the loss of a friend, sickness, slander, the failure of some letter to arrive, the spraining of an ankle, a glance to the shop, a counter argument, the opening of a book, a dream, a fraud, a heartbreak, my own addition. Either immediately or very soon after, it proves to be something that must not be missing. It has a profound significance and use precisely for us. Precisely for us. You are the director and the directed. You are the writer and the written. At the end of the book of your fate, you write your own book. And at all times, you're both writing and reading the book that you are writing and reading. You read the book that you wrote, and you write the book that you will read. You create what you will discover, and you discover what you've already created. The course, and you'll notice this, whoever's listening, that I do this a lot, and this is what Nietzsche did. Collapse all duality. Being or becoming. Freedom or determinism. There is no or. That doesn't exist. Good or evil, no. It's all false. It's a false unit. It's a false division. Nietzsche was the destroyer of duality. Why did he choose Zarathustra as his mouthpiece, as his ego inflation identification? Because Zarathustra created good and evil, at least according to Nietzsche. That Zarathustra divided what should have never been divided. And Nietzsche's coming back to fix that mistake. But this idea of personal providence, the things that are precisely for us, we look back in our life, we look back at all those stories, the moment you broke your arm, the moment you didn't achieve something you thought you wanted to achieve, the moment that a door that you wanted to be open closed itself to you, the moment a letter didn't arrive, the moment a letter you sent and was never received, the moment the self that you gave was rejected and the self that you wanted to achieve was never given. All those rejections and gives, all those acquisitions and losses, all those exiles and returns, those deaths and lives, now in that moment of personal providence, in every moment that follows, they confront us as something necessary, as something that cannot be missing from the tapestry that is our life. And that's the real thing, is the message of affirmation. Amor fati, love one's fate, love your fate. Because your life is a riddle, it is a labyrinth. Every misstep, every misturn, every pathway you take on the mountain, every time you fall into a ditch and you fall back down to the base, every time you take a wrong turn, you end up in the valley over and over again. And every time you get to the top of the mountain, you look across into the horizon and you see another mountain to climb. It's all necessary. It's all necessary. It's all part of your fate. And you create the fate that you are bound by. And I think I'm going to read some of the things that I wrote about this, and I'm going to, bear with me. In the expanse of one's life, the periods of trauma and severity mark the most important. Those are the moments that make us really who we are. Those are the moments that reveal to us most intimately and deeply the core of who it is that we are, that we're becoming. In the same way an animal evolves, we too evolve, yet true human evolution occurs within the brain, and it occurs in relation to itself. This is what separates us from animals, our ability to be self-conscious. An animal, and there's varying degrees, of course, but it's not that I can think about, this water bottle and this caffeinated beverage inside of it, or, the video that I'm making right now. It's that I can think about thinking about that. And then I can think about the thinking of thinking about that. Freud formulates this system of thought. That's what he's doing. He says that the way that we think, the psychology that underlies our behavior and our mannerisms and our method of interacting with and confronting the world, that comes down to the Oedipal complex. But ultimately, it was his projection, his own method of thinking onto reality. It was insight that crystallized itself, that flashed upon him, that he put into words, the infinite that he grasped within that was made into the finite without. And the only problem here is not that he did that. The problem is that people believed his thinking instead of their own. You can only have your own fate when you're looking inward. And up until the point you do that, you're following someone else's fate for you. You're following someone else's pattern of thinking. You're following someone else's methodologization. I hate that word, but formalization. You're following someone else's formalization of thinking, of interacting with the world. But guess what? It's all in you. You know, take a sabbatical. You know, become a Jew. Take a sabbatical. Take a month-long sabbatical, 2-month, 10-month, 10-year sabbatical from everything external. Go up into the mountain. I'm joking, but go up and just every time you scroll through Instagram or you're reading a book or you're listening into a conversation or you listen to some YouTube video. You're injecting into your brain the pattern of thinking that someone else has either derived for themselves or acquired from someone else's derivation. All of it was created, all of it was made. And so, within you, there is something awaiting expression. Your fate, it is waiting to be expressed. There's a unity that you have to achieve, and it can really only fully be achieved when you look inward, when you stop at all moments to await anything from the external. In Letters to a Young Poet by Rainer Maria Rilke, and the basic, it's epistolary, I don't know. It's written in the form of letters, so it's just a collection of letters. And in the first letter, Rilke was writing back to a young man who was requesting advice, saying, hey, I want to write. I want to write in a way that inspires, that changes people, but how can I do that? Do you have any advice for me? And Rilke says, the only advice I can give you is to go inward. Go into the stillest, deepest depths within your soul and listen there. Listen to the voice that speaks there. And don't listen to anything else ever again. And as I've lived my life, I found that the intuition, the inward flashes of insight that I just, flashes of insight, they're just understanding. Here's a quote by Jung, and I like it a lot. He says, the introverted intuitive type is particularly difficult to understand. And also, you'll attract the people that are similar to you. I find the people that will watch these videos, that will enjoy them, are gonna probably be very similar to me. That I'll touch a chord within them. I'll play an instrument that they have also within them because I'm playing the instrument that's within me. And we share that instrument because we share things that go beyond the screen, that go beyond. It's a communion of souls, and souls that, it's only really souls that are similar that can commune with each other because we share the same language. And so the introverted intuitive type, it's probably you as well, is particularly difficult to understand. He has a gift of seeing the future or images from the collective unconscious, but his relation to outer reality is almost always problematic. He sees what could be, what ought to be, and yet is alienated from what is. I'm gonna give some insight into the artistic journey to you guys, and listen if you like or don't. The introverted intuitive type, from a young age, the insight flashes on them like lightning. And they see it, it just comes to them, and they have this understanding. They look at a person and they just know who they are. They know without ever having known. They know things without ever having learned them. And then they try to explain this, and they're met with this astonishment, this shock, this appallment. What are you talking about? I remember in high school, I go back and I read the things I wrote when I was 17, 16, 18. And I look back and I see how so much of my own understanding of myself, I allowed the external to imprint itself on me. It wasn't that I really believed what other people were saying, it's that I allowed doubt to convict me. And that's the real challenge, the real archetypical journey, the hero's journey for the introverted, intuitive type is the journey through his own doubt, his own lack of self-confidence. Because he is right. He is almost always much more right than many people. And he has to regain his confidence in his own insight. And that takes time. That takes time. He sees what could be, what ought to be, and yet is alienated from what is. And this is where Jung missed a lot of things, and I'll get into some of that, I suppose, sometime, or in the books that I write. And there's a lot of them I'm going to write, a lot of them writing. So much to do, so little time. Life expands itself beyond me, and I try to grasp the ungraspable. But He sees what could be, what ought to be, and yet is alienated from what is. That's what the artist is doing. The artist sees the world, but he rejects the world as it is. And he sees a vision of the world as it ought to be, the world as an ideal. And his artistry is him trying to make that external world equivalent to his inner world. In the Gospel of Thomas, which is an apocryphal text, Jesus says, when you make the inner into the outer, and you make the outer into the inner, and when you make the two into the one, then you will enter the kingdom of God. You feel tension because the inner and the outer are mismatched. But you should be grateful for that tension, because that means that you can still become a human. And I wonder truly how many people have become human in the history of humanity. Man is a mystery. It needs to be unraveled. And if you spend your whole life unraveling it, don't say you've wasted time. I am studying that mystery because I want to be a human being. Dostoevsky. Brings tears to my eyes. I also want to be a human being. And so listen to your intuition, listen to your fear, follow your fate, and everything turns out for the best, always, because you make sure that it does. Here, I'll try and finish up with some other stuff. I think that was a good point to stop, really. I think it was climactic. But I think I want to read a little bit more of what I had written. Humankind, in coming to consciousness, was made the bearer of the great and fundamental paradox of all things, the thing which begets all things, the thing that needs no beginning but its own, the paradox of self-reference. The mind which interprets itself can interpret even its own interpretation, and then it can interpret that interpretation. Every interpretation follows the last, and something is lost, but something far greater is gained, the pattern, the thread. Our collective life task reveals itself to us. Nietzsche wrote about the man for whom all things turn out for the best. That was him. But additionally, it was his model of the man of the future, the overman who overcomes man. This is not some paltry game of fate as it may be thought or initially felt in one's own life, and certainly how it is felt to be that way, how it is certainly felt to be the case for the enormous mind. It's underworking unperceived and hidden in the depths of the fear that refuses to confront that truth. This sort of man convinces himself. This sort of man, I'll just read this because I think it's goated. I hate that word. I think it's good. This sort of man convinces himself of this divine providence in his life, and in this manner he is able to continue to live. His divine providence becomes the divine providence of others. He literally externalizes his art. He makes the two into the one. He makes the inner into the outer. That ought that he sees, he makes it into the is. You see, the normal man accepts the is at the consequence of himself. He accepts the general truth. The neurotic, you, me, probably everybody, neuroticism is the basis of creativity, and don't let anyone ever tell you otherwise. But the neurotic cannot accept his own truth or the collective truth, the general truth. The artist accepts his own truth, and the prophet makes the general truth his own truth. He makes the general divine providence his own divine providence. His divine providence becomes the divine providence of others, but the secret wish is never discovered. That intolerable truth is never encountered. The mirror was hidden away. This man had never seen himself. But the overman, what is his fate? What is it that makes it so that all things turn out for the best for him? The overman realizes the truth. He looks in the mirror. He sees that the author and the authored, the writer and the written, the actor and the director are one and the same. This fate, this divine providence, it was in him and him all along. You are the answer, and the answer is in you. He crafted his own story. He ensured for himself that all things had happened to him for the best. He promised himself to himself, and he delivered that promise. How does he do this? Ha ha ha. That is the secret, is it not? Would you truly like to know? And I won't share the secret, because I can't. You'll discover it for yourself. As this channel develops, the goal has been developing. My life task, really it's been the same. I could go back and read some of the things I wrote last summer, the summer before, years ago, the first book that I wrote, the things I wrote in high school, it's all been the same. My aim is simple, and it's the aim of what mysticism really is. I want to collapse all duality. And I'm going to do it. I've already done it. I've already done it in myself, and I continue to do it. It's never done. It's always being and becoming. You continue to be You continue to become being and be becoming. If that's a contradiction, I don't care, because there are no contradictions. You collapse all duality. The duality itself is the contradiction. But I want to take this channel into multiple directions. I want to talk about mental illness, and now it's not really mental illness. I want to talk about theology. I want to talk about philosophy. I want to maybe go into some politics. I want to talk about the depths of psychology, the way that we defend ourselves, the way that we think truth. It's not truth, it's just our way of protecting ourselves from what is real. And the real is the unbearable. I want to talk about how psychology is leading us to a new era, how we are all part of this generation caught up in the in-between, not just of two eras, but the era of eras. How our fate is the end of the story of all things. And then that we are burdened with to deliver the beginning of all beginnings. And there's so much, and I think you'll feel this too. You feel that in you. You feel that infinity spinning. You have that intuition, that insight, that flash. It comes across you. It fills you up. The entire world, it seems like you understand all things. You look at a person and you know who they are. The story, it connects itself, it formulates itself. You see it before it's even been made. But the energy, the strength, the courage, the will, the determination, the focus, the discipline, the consistency, the conviction, those things aren't lacking. I never think that they're lacking in you. It's just that not all insight is meant to be capitalized on. Don't give birth to something before it's ready to be born. And all art is birth. I really do believe this. I think that men, in contrast to women, developed art because they were incapable of giving birth. A woman, she expels her inner infinity. She creates a unity in herself, and that is literally life. And a man, he doesn't have that. And so he created art as a means of overcoming the trauma of being born, and that's Amado Rank. And I'm gonna go to neurology as well. So I know this video is getting a little bit long, but I think it's been good. When we're born, our brain goes through the very first high-scale rewiring of all of its neural networks. And it's all networks, and we're discovering this very recently. We discovered that we had networks. The default mode network we discovered in the late 1990s because we were doing PET scans of people at focus on a task, and we saw that when they got focused, these entire collective areas, connected areas, various areas all over the brain, they just stopped lighting up. And so we realized, oh, wait a second, these things are working in tandem. It's a network. It's not one part. It's all interconnected. Nothing is separate from the whole. But when you're born, all of that, the entire neural network, it rewires itself. And that's traumatic. And the baby is born, the baby is in this harmony, this unity, and it's born, and suddenly it enters into a hypervigilance. Being born is a trauma. It is the fundamental trauma. And we spend our entire lives trying to overcome it. The artist, before we can create anything at all, must create one thing, and that is himself. The true creative act is the creating of yourself. The true creative act is undoing or redoing the trauma of being born. It's giving birth to yourself. Sufism, the art of rebirth, mysticism, Kabbalah, Hermeticism, alchemy. This language in the East, death and rebirth, it's all real, it's all true, it's all in here. And you don't figure it out by reading a book. It helps, but you really figure it out when you go inward. And I was forced to go inward. How was I forced to go inward? Well, it's a story that I'll tell another time. And it's a long one, but it's a beautiful one, and I want to share it. But it's because I followed my fear. And God must be fear before he can become love. So follow your fear and transform your God into love. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for listening. Let me know what you thought about this video. Let me know about what you want to see, what you want me to talk about. I kind of want to do streaming as well. If you'd like to listen to some streams, me just doing some creative stuff, talking about quotes, just reading a book and saying, hey, let's talk about this, cross-reference, ChatGPT, all these things. Let me know if you'd enjoy it, because I like doing it and I think it'd be fun. But take it easy, and remember, everything that happens is for the best, and you make sure that it does.